Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. Tim Roth, CEO at Capella Minerals, joins us again last year at the end of November to update us as to their 5 projects and what's happening. So 2 joint venture partners in Canada in the shape of Ethos and Yamana, can't be bad, and 2 projects in Norway, both copper, can't be bad, and a gold project in Sweden. So lots going on there, a little bit cash constrained, but a large amount of warrants coming through at 12 cents. Shortly, they say, could be $7 million contribution from that. So if you want our thoughts and opinions on his plans, the outlook for this year with the drill program coming through, you can go and check that out at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. We've got commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. We've got training courses, and we do summaries of all the interviews that we do just to save you some time, because we know you're busy people. But more importantly, we've got a wonderful, thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly and safe environment, free from all that judgment, trolling, and abuse you see elsewhere. And if that sounds nice, go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. There is a little bit of a waiting list, but it's well worth the wait when you do get there, so bear with us. We'd love your feedback, so do give us a like, leave your comments below, and if you want to see precisely what we talked about with Eric today, do take a look in the description below. Eric, how are you, sir?
Yeah, hi Matt, how are you? It's good to be back, and everything good on this side. So I guess we keep pushing forward with projects. I'm still in Spain at the moment, but one of the good things in Europe is that they are starting to, well, in some parts anyway, loosen up some of the COVID restrictions, which is making life a bit easier for moving around. But other than that, all good. So we keep pushing things forward.
Fantastic. You're saying Ibiza, Spain.
Yeah, that's correct. So we're in a place called Santa Eulalia, which is on the east coast. And as I say, look, it's a much simpler base. Previously, we were based in Chile, but obviously having all Northern Hemisphere projects now makes it much easier having the base here in Spain to get around and keep on top of the projects.
Good stuff. Are you getting ready for the clubbing season, or will you be leaving the island?
Actually, the first thing we do in July and August is get out of the island, to be honest. That's the sort of crowd that I don't want to see, to be honest.
I don't blame you.
I'm happy to be here in the winter and, the fringe seasons, but not the high season. Good time to get out.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, well, okay, good to see you. We haven't spoken to you since, I think, the end of November. So, you've done, I've done a few things since we last spoke. It's been good to catch up here. But before we do, give us that 1-minute overview of the business, and I'll pick it up from there with some questions.
Yeah, so Matt, just to remind your listeners too, so we basically have 5 projects active at the moment. So keeping in mind that the portfolio that Capella has today, we have 3 gold projects, and of course, the targets are high grade gold targets on all of those. So we have 2 joint ventures in Canada, one which is called Savant Lake, which we did a deal with a company called Ethos Gold back in September. So they are basically pushing that project forward, and that's one that they have to contribute to. We don't need to contribute to that joint venture. The second joint venture we have in Canada is called Domain, and that's actually a joint venture with Yamana. Yamana are the project operators. They are also pushing that forward. And I should also mention too that the plan on both of those projects is to have drilling during the second half of the year here on those. So both of our joint venture partners are pushing those projects forward. If I look at the Scandinavian side of things, we did acquire at the end of last year 3 projects in Scandinavia, 2 high-grade copper projects, an old mining district in Norway, and 1 gold project in Sweden. So we have a lot on the go at the moment.
You do, because you also sold off an Argentinian asset, which I think you still got some securities on, haven't you? You own a little.
Yeah, that's correct. So we did 2 divestitures. Yeah, so we did 2 divestitures, Matt, in 2020. So one was for shares. So we got basically just over $1 million of stock in Cerrado Gold. So that was the company that owns the Don Nicolas mine, and they acquired us, or the subsidiary there, for the Las Calandrias project, which is a neighboring project to Don Nicolas.
And Ethos as well.
And Ethos Gold, that was the second deal that gave us some shares as well. So that came out of the Savant Lake deal. So basically the deal we have with them is we got 2 million Ethos shares on signing. We get 2 million Ethos shares on every anniversary. And of course, look, Ethos, as you probably know, they're a very technically very strong team, very well connected in Canada. So we're very happy to have them on as joint venture partners at Savant.
Fantastic, and obviously you mentioned Yamana there. So what I'm seeing is you like doing deals. So deals get done, and to reasonable size partners there. So there's some sort of certainty and security to that. You picked up some assets from EMX Scandinavian assets, Norway and Sweden. I guess the exciting bit is copper. It's become a little bit topical. We're cents away from an all-time high on the copper price. So tell us what you're doing on. Let's start with Kjøli first, if you don't mind, in Norway.
Yeah, so just in terms of background, yes, as you mentioned, we did acquire the projects from EMX. It was actually a pretty good deal from our side. Effectively, EMX got a 9.9% shareholding in Capella for that. And of course, at the time, that was, basically about $1 million worth of shares Canadian in what are some, basically some fantastic projects. The 2 high-grade copper projects and, of course, the 1 gold project in Sweden. So just to take one quick step back on the Norwegian assets. So keep in mind, these are both old mining districts. They've been dormant for the last 40 years. They basically shut down in the mid-'80s for 2 reasons. One, because of low metal prices. I mean, we talk about, copper today being $4.70 a pound, but, in the mid-'80s, it was 60 cents a pound. So obviously they didn't make a lot of money. And the second thing that happened in Norway too was that they obviously discovered oil in the North Sea, which, people just walked away from the mining industry and said, hey, there's more money to be made in oil. So basically the mining industry in Norway has been dormant for the last 40 years. So, but both Kjøli and Løkken were old mining districts, and we've been looking at the potential to find satellites or new deposits along the prospective stratigraphy for these these copper-rich massive sulfide deposits.
Okay, so are you developing those jointly? Is it shared budgets on both assets, or are you focused on one more than the other?
So it comes down to just, so at the moment, there's no particular preference. We've just done more work at Kjøli at the moment, just simply because, there's a couple of things. I mean, one is access, also the potential. I mean, Kjøli, people who go to the website, they'll see photographs. You can actually walk on outcrops that are running over 2% copper, right? So it's kind of an obvious place to start in the sense of it's probably the area that's had the least work, but has a lot of potential. Løkken is a great project too, keeping in mind it was the biggest copper deposit of its class. These massive sulfide systems. It was it produced about 24 million tons of 2.3% copper and just a whisker under 2% zinc. So it's a high grade system too, and very little exploration has been done. But we just focused on Kjøli simply for 2 reasons. I mean, one is that there's fantastic potential there. There's some drill ready targets already that you can see just walking on these high grade outcrops, but also we felt there was good potential to grow. And your listeners probably would have seen over the last week or so, we had an update on the drill targeting work we've done, and some very nice targets have come out, some very large, massive sulfide type targets, which now we'll zoom in on and get them, bring them along the path to drilling as quickly as we can.
Okay, and I very quickly want to touch on Sweden with the Southern Gold Line project there, please. Before I want to kind of wrap this up in a strategy conversation with you. So, what's happening in Sweden?
Yeah, so we did announce we started an auger drilling program. So what happens in Sweden? Sweden's obviously it's a gold project, different geology, but also there's a thin till cover. So obviously the best way to explore anywhere in sort of northern Sweden, Finland, is through auger drilling. So what we have in the southern part of the property, we have gold mineralized boulders on surface. We've been using the auger drilling effectively to look for to move upstream, if you like, to look for the source of these gold mineralized boulders. So we'll put out an update shortly on how that's going, but there's some good things coming out, and I think it's an area that has a lot of potential. And as we know, there are multi-million ounce deposits in that belt already, including Barcelia. So we see a lot of potential in that belt as well for new discoveries.
Right. So we've dealt with the portfolio. We've got your Canadian assets with some good JV partners there. You got some payments made and some securities given from that. The Scandinavian assets, Norway, Sweden, great. Gold and copper, people love it. But here's the thing: you're 14.5 million market cap company today. You're sitting on what in terms of cash? Just over $1 million.
Yeah, it's about 1.2 Canadian. So
right.
We don't need to raise any money short term. I guess. One of the key messages for the market is we have enough for the moment in terms of just keeping the programs going. We do have in the back pocket these marketable securities, which we can liquidate as and when it's appropriate.
Value of those? What do you reckon?
Yeah, so I guess right now they'd be about 1.6 million at current market prices. Okay. That's Canadian, of course. But for example, a company like Ethos Gold, because of their track record, now would probably be the wrong time to sell those shares. And also, Cerrado too is obviously they've got a great portfolio down in Argentina. But of course, we have the option to sell those whenever we feel is appropriate.
Got it. And you've got some 12-cent warrants coming through. You're 11 cents today, so you're close. So here's a question for you. Your team has had a success previously with the Mariana project, so you can create value. What's the strategy here? Because 1.2 million of cash or thereabouts, 1.6 million securities, which you don't necessarily want to cash in now, and some warrants are nearly there. What do you think the warrants could be worth to you if they do come through?
Yeah, so the warrants, Matt, are basically it's about $7 million Canadian if they all get exercised. So we're actually just a whisker away from that. So the way I see the strategy going is that we can at least initiate drilling. Obviously, with the money we have right now, we can't do a mega drill program anywhere. But the idea is to generate the interest, show the concepts, prove that we've got what it takes to make a significant discovery on these projects, and then the warrants will come into the money. And it becomes a snowball after that. These things grow with their own momentum.
Well, they do and they don't, right? Most exploration stories don't actually make it. You have got a track record of success. So when you say show the concept, so talk us through the concept. What are the processes? Because at this end of the scale, everything's a bit tight. Money's a bit tight. Margin for error is a bit tight. It's harder down here. You can't afford to make too many mistakes. So what is that proof of concept that you want to share with the market? And I'm hearing loud and clear from you, you don't want to come back into the market and raise capital. You don't want dilution at this level. I get it, but how do you do that?
Yeah, so they're all good questions, Matt, and maybe I'll just take a step back and say, if I look at the assets that we acquired in Scandinavia, so we've got quite a good eye for things, and obviously we know what has better than average potential. Obviously there's, exploration covers, there's a lot of gray areas in there. In the case of the two Norwegian assets, these are former mining districts, right? So, there's also a motto in our business, the best place to find a new mine is in the shadow of a head frame, right? So these aren't sort of greenfields projects out in the middle of nowhere. These are actually, projects where, and in fact, I should really call them brownfields exploration, because what we're doing is looking for both extensions and satellites to the old deposits, right? So we know there's mineralization there. So that already, pushes you a few notches up in terms of the prospectivity scale. So we feel very comfortable. That the other thing too to keep in mind with these massive sulfide targets, I like them for two reasons. One is that they're high grade. Obviously, as you know, if you follow our history, we've always focused on high grade deposits, because I think at the end of the day, that is what makes sense to a small company. And if we had to build the mine, we could do it, because they're things that, they're not $5 billion CapEx projects to build. These are relatively small things that you could do. We could actually put it into production if we wish to. But I think, so they're high grade. And the other thing with massive sulfides is they typically occur in clusters, right? So it's just one of those things in geology that where you find one, you are going to find others. So, to me, that's the attractiveness of massive sulfide targets. And so that's why we feel very strongly that Norway has a lot of potential. As I say, it's been dormant for the last 40 years. Not much has been done in the last 40 years. And to be honest, Matt, if this was anywhere else in the world, it would have been drilled out by now. People would just go crazy over a project like this anywhere else, right? So, and the same with Sweden too. Sweden's a little bit earlier stage. But there are mines in the district, and we do feel there's very strong potential for discovery there too. So.
Right. Okay. So, but I want to dig into this, because you've gone from 8 cents to 11 cents since we spoke at the end of November. Okay. So it's a percentage, not insignificant, but you're still 14.5 million market cap. Okay. So people are perhaps pigeonholing you somewhere, and perhaps with companies that you perhaps don't want to be pigeonholed with necessarily. So I want to dig in a little bit about this one. So how do you take 3 projects with the capital constraints that you've got now to a point where the market's going to get interested? Because if the warrants don't come through, it does get a bit tight. If they do come through, I guess, happy days, you can probably do the things you want to do. So you're going to need to tell the market something more than they're hearing right now to get to that 12 cents, albeit, it's fairly close. What are you going to be saying to them?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt, and you're right, and absolutely, and we always have that option of selling the marketable securities, right? So that we have 1.6 million at today's prices in the back pocket, which at least gets things moving. I think if I look at really what you need to do is get the drilling happening as soon as possible, and we get that. That's obviously what's really going to move the dial for us. Is we've done a lot of target generation work, and we've done a lot in the last 6 months, I guess, since we acquired the projects. But really, what the market wants to see is drilling, and and we get that, and so we understand that we need to push all 5 projects as quickly as we can towards drilling. So that's what's going to move the dial. You make a discovery, and the whole picture changes, right? That's the philosophy, and the way I see it, we have quite a few irons at the fire. We have the 5 projects, and any one of those 5 could come up with more than one of them could come up with a discovery.
Sure, but the Canadian assets with the JV partners, you're not in control of that. They'll move it there. To their drumbeat. Okay, so you're waiting on that in a way. So your expectation is that they may drill, they may create value, and may help you. But you're not in control of that one. So that's why I think what you do in Norway and Sweden is really, really, really important to get people to start paying attention to this. So we've seen quite a few Swedish companies with assets in Sweden come on, and they've done exceptionally well. But they've been able to talk about high grade drill results, gold, etc. So that's worked. So do you think that you should be focused on one, not all 3 of these assets, to be able to bring the volume of drill results that are going to maybe entice people into your project or into your company?
Yeah, no, totally agree, Matt. And if I look at the 3, so the Canadian projects, you're 100% correct. They are the project operators. The joint venture partners are the operators. So we do move to their drumbeat. If I look at the Scandinavian assets, so as I mentioned, the Swedish project, we probably won't be doing diamond drilling this year. So we do have auger drilling happening. So that's one project that we don't need to spend drill meters on this year. So to me, the 2 projects that we have 100% control over are the 2 Norwegian copper assets. And let's face it, and we do know that the quicker we can get in there and drill and demonstrate the high grade potential here, in the current market, that will just go down so well. That's what we're really aiming for.
And why have you done that? I get they're former producers, so therefore there's probably a bit more data, and therefore there's probably some targets which are going to be easy to throw up some high grade headlines for. Is that why you've done that and ignored Sweden?
No, actually, because we can actually build mines here. So, what people basically forget is that because these are old mining districts, the infrastructure is just unbelievable. I think people would be completely shocked. At Løkken, you've got everything from the old mine still there, right? There's functioning shafts. There's an electric railway to the port. Half of the infrastructure that you would normally have to build for a mine, it's already there, right? And this isn't thinking about the cell phone coverage everywhere. There's paved highways, and Kjøli the same thing. We're right next to the main railway that joins Trondheim with Roth, which of course was the center of the copper mining district in that Roth belt, in that the Kjøli area. So the infrastructure is just unbelievable. You can actually, on the back of a discovery, you can move these projects forward very quickly. The other thing I will just mention quickly too is there's obviously an abundance of hydroelectric power too. So you've got very cheap energy. So I think people forget the benefits of that already. That's a huge leg up when you're coming to the mining type studies. You've already got half of it in place, right? It's incredible. So
okay, so Norway, not a lot of people appreciate this, is a good mining jurisdiction, infrastructure in place. Does that also then manifest itself in the way that you are able to get permits, licenses necessary to do what you need to do?
Yeah, so I guess that's one of the first questions we get from people, Matt, because obviously
I got there eventually.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of. There hasn't been a lot of exploration in Norway the last 40 years, right? So there's not many people that have gone through the process. Although having said that, there is a mine up north now being built. So there's one cab off the rank in the copper space. The advantage that we have, because these are former mining districts, both Løkken and Kjøli. So there's 2 things that are really important. Apart from the fact there's infrastructure already there, mining related infrastructure. The people that live in these areas. Basically, they had family that were miners, right? Maybe it was grandfathers or whatever, but a lot of people actually had family working in the mines. And to be honest, they understand mining. And they also understand Norwegians they also understand that we need copper for all the things that we want to do in this world. So we've had a lot of support. Obviously we need to make sure we're good neighbours and make sure we do everything properly and, as we would operating anywhere. But people are very supportive of the story because they understand that these are good projects. They need copper. And the other thing I will mention too is that, of course, these areas that we're operating didn't see any of the oil boom, right? It was all the coastal towns in Norway that got basically the trappings of the oil business, right? So a lot of these towns just got forgotten over the years, for want of a better word. So there's a lot of support. And I think, as I say, because there is a history of mining here, people understand it, they get it.
Right. Okay. So good place to do business. Some messages I'm hearing from you are no need to go out and raise money anytime soon. You've got enough capital to do the things that you need to do in Sweden. In Norway, a little bit going on in Sweden, and your partners in Canada are proceeding as expected. So what should we expect next from you? More of these drills? Because I've seen a few headlines here with regards to Kjøli, high-grade copper and zinc targets. When do we start seeing some numbers out of you?
Yeah, so second half of the year is when we expect to be drilling on 4 of the projects, Matt. So if I leave the Canadian projects aside for a moment, as I mentioned, both of those we do expect to be doing some drilling in the second half. But in terms of our Scandinavian portfolio, the plan is basically to have some drilling happening here during the second half. So we're really just making sure we got all our ducks in a row. As I say, in the case of Kjøli, there's some obvious walk-up drill targets. As I say, you can walk out there tomorrow and stand on mineralized outcrop, but we just want to make sure we have the targeting done properly so that when we go in, we are actually drilling the best targets. And of course, that's obviously critical for us to show the upside, to show the concept in these belts.
Beautiful. Eric, that's something for us to look forward to. Stay in touch, let us know how you get on. I want to start seeing some of those numbers as they come through. Appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, and look forward to the next chat. I'm sure we'll have some really excellent, even better things to talk about next time. So.